hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5 Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
Rush Nation, and welcome along here to the flagship show. Isaac, I'm going to guide you through my dad, and you'll be pleased to see I have two great faces alongside me. The man this side, big man Murph. You're back. You're not quite better, but you get in there. Is that right?
Yeah, it's really good to be here, Dan. The last couple of weeks have been horrible. Most of you probably all know. Those that don't, obviously, I got bitten by some bacteria got into my left leg, ballooned to about 4 times the size, and blood under the skin. It was pretty horrible. And then I contracted COVID. On top of that, and
UKFC probably didn't assist it, did it?
No, running a charity tournament.
Content level was up.
No, and then starting a charity tournament in your hospital bed is probably not the best thing to do. Do you know what? I really almost postponed it. I think I even said to Stocks, I'm going to postpone it. But so many people were so excited. I was like, I just have to just power through this. So,
and there's a great team here at 5 Yard that have all.
Everyone's chipped in. It's been
and helped out, and
it's been terrific. But I'm here. I'm not mentally brilliant, and I'm not physically brilliant. But if you think my voice is like flatter than normal, or I've seemed like a bit disinterested, it's not that what we're talking about or anything like that. It's just the recovery levels will take some weeks to get back to full level, but. We've got a great guest, so I know I'm going to laugh a lot tonight because this is one of my best friends in the entire world, and I'm so glad he's here. Because if I needed someone other than you, Dan, who gets me through a lot of shows, if I needed someone just to give me that extra pickup, this is like the perfect person when you're just not feeling 100% and you just need to pick me up. This is the guy, and I'm so humbled he's here. Every time he comes on, he humbles me, and I love him to pieces. So take it away.
Well, that's it. FantasyPros analyst and the host. Author of the incredible Fantasy Football Black Book, which is behind him. This is weird at mirrors, isn't it? Collector of mini figurines by the look of it as well, Joe.
Yes, indeed.
A couple fun joins us.
What's going on? What's going on, guys? It is great to see you. Dan, pleasure to see you. Murph, again, everything, feelings mutual. It's been years now, you and I. I can't wait for you to get to the States and hang out, man. I told you, got an open invitation here to come watch football in the big giant television, the bar room here at the Pisapia house, and just hang out. And I'll make Sunday sauce. We'll hang out. We'll eat some food. We'll watch some football. It'll be a good time. I'm
also
just glad that you're
an excellent wrestling podcast. Says
Jack. We do the wrestling podcast too. That's right. Thank you, Jack, for listening to that. I appreciate that. In this ring, very exciting episode last week. I just dropped to that. But yeah, dude, I'm just glad you're feeling better. I know you take your ginger stuff really seriously, but your whole entire body need not look red as well. So although the Hellboy look was kind of cool for a little while for you, I'm glad you're getting better. I want to know what bit you. That's what I want to know. Like, who was the culprit?
I was going to say, we're not a country renowned for biting insects and animals, right? I mean, let's face
it wasn't like Murph was on safari or something like that. Like, that's not an image I think any of us can see. Like, there's, no. I want to know what the hell happened, but I look, whatever it is.
At the wilds of Northamptonshire.
I know. Well, it's funny. It actually doesn't matter what bit me because it wasn't like a venom that caused it. It's basically just something bit me in the back of my leg. It was so small that it was so insignificant. Didn't know it was there. Never knew it was there, and basically it got infected. So bit of dirt, bit of whatever rubbish, something got inside my skin. And that's what's caused the lower leg infection. So it was just an infection. So,
well, are you going to be ready for training camp? I think that's all anybody cares about. All right.
Absolutely.
Can I still draft you? That's what I want to know.
You can still draft me, although the Buccaneers are talking about me maybe playing center.
They could use one, yeah.
I might be playing center for the Buccaneers if Robert Hansley doesn't work out to be as good. Might be blocking for the GOAT. You never know. Nice. I'm ready to go. No, I'm ready to go. We're gonna smash it. This is gonna be a phenomenal season. I can't wait for it. And I feel like this year, and I don't know about you guys, I feel like this year, because there's been so much of this, and we're gonna get onto the big talking point in a minute. There's been so much sort of negative news this year with lots of holdouts, lots of like contract stuff, lots of discipline stuff. I kind of feel like this offseason's been the longest one ever. Like, I don't feel like, I feel like this has been the longest.
I actually think this year's gone far quicker than last year. I think the trade activity coming out of the season with those Tyreek Hills and Chris Kirk went to the Jags for the money and the change of coach in there. I actually think this one's gone relatively quickly because especially early on, we had some kind of breaking news every week to come up with.
Yeah, for me, everything just flies by because I do NFL and Major League Baseball, so there's no rest for me. So it doesn't matter. So the draft was insane. Trying to cover that live was nuts because there were actual real trades going on. Nobody was making their own pick. Trying to keep who traded who for what net. Like, it was crazy. So the draft was wild. And there were like real players moving, like AJ Brown moving teams. Like, there were players were like, wow, this is actually
Brown.
Yeah. You're like looking around going, this is like a fantasy league here. What the hell's going on? So, so from that standpoint, it's been crazy, but I get what you're saying. I think these hold-ins as they are now, they're not holdouts. Like, they go there, they show up in catering, they hang out, they go to, a couple of meetings, but they're just not going to put themselves out because they don't want to get hurt, which is understandable. I think that's the way more mature way to go about these things. But yeah, the hold-ins are a little annoying. Obviously today, the Deshaun Watson stuff, we finally got maybe more clarity on that. And of all the days too, it's like, hey, it's Monday morning. Let's go. We're going to get the Deshaun Watson stuff. We're going to talk about quarterbacks. It seems like the perfect storm today for the show.
Yeah, it is. Cause we planned quarterbacks. We planned this a few weeks ago and then this dropped. So it's literally like perfect. So obviously everyone is aware that Deshaun Watson has been banned for 6 games. He will receive that suspension immediately. He won't be back until week 7 of the NFL season, by which point he would have missed 19 consecutive NFL games. He also would have missed about 21, 22 months of football. He would have changed teams from playing in a dome to outside. He wouldn't have been able to train with any of his teammates. I don't think we need to get into the morality of. I think everyone understands that 6 games isn't long enough. I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say that 6 games is enough. And I think, we're not going to sit here and pass the same judgments. But from a league perspective, because this is the first time this process has been done from the collective bargaining agreement and the independent process, do we feel that the process is better than just handing it to Goodell? And do we feel that a due process was followed? And on top of that, what do we think about Deshaun Watson coming back in week 7 and what's he going to come back to?
Well, I think, first of all, this is exactly how I started Fantasy Pros Pod this morning, which is like, I'm not going to get into the heinous awfulness of what he did, because if you don't understand that, then you're an idiot. So now we're just left with the football version. So I'm here to talk about what happens football wise, at this point, because, whether it was 1 or 24 people he did this to, it doesn't matter. It's equally terrible. It's horrible. To my understanding, they were presented the arbiter was presented the 5 cases, I guess it were, that were a sample size of what was going on, that were not the ones that were settled or not the ones that were the civil lawsuits and things like that nature. And because they didn't find the criminal, charges there with him, it becomes dicey from a legal standpoint of the circumstances of it. So I understand that. I do think the independent arbiter is a good idea. I do believe that. And I believe that because you don't want everything to always be on the desk of Roger Goodell and him be the moral police and and somehow trying to figure out, well, Deshaun Watson did these horrible things, and they said Tom Brady blew up a couple footballs, and now he's got 4 games and Deshaun Watson has 6. I mean, you can't do this. Calvin Ridley's got a year for making a bet on FanDuel or whatever the hell he did. Like, it's just crazy. Like, you can't try to justify all these things. I do think this is a peculiar situation. The fact that the NFL does have 3 days to appeal. If they appeal, I think is going to set a very bad precedent for what they just agreed to in the CBA. So I do believe the 6 is going to be the 6. And I think over time, the NFL is going to take this angle of, we're just going to let it pass through and everyone's going to be upset about it, and they're going to win that war of attrition because at the end of the day, people are going to be more excited that football's back than more angry that Deshaun Watson didn't get enough. Because what is enough? Well, I mean, if any of us did this in our jobs, we would not have jobs anymore. So I think that's the whole thing. I mean, this is a life of privilege that some of these guys live in. You got to hope that at some point in time they understand that using that privilege should have circumstances, but when it doesn't truly have circumstances, it's difficult. And I think it's more complicated because it seems like something the Texans allowed to continue for a very long period of time. So the NFL's personal, liability here, I think, is huge, not just Deshaun Watson's. And that's what makes it so complicated. So I think in this case, the NFL will be wise to just accept what it is. They did the due process. They can stand or hide behind the legality issues of it. And then just hope that by the time we get Deshaun Watson back, everyone will make us think about it, but we're in the football season. And at the end of the day, people who are upset about it will be upset about it. And the people who are just going to watch football are going to watch football.
And there's a ton of conditions he's going to have to follow as part of this as well. So things are, for example, all of his sessions will have to be booked by the team, managed by the team, supervised, chaperoned. There's things about if he comes into any more legal trouble, there's an automatic clause that gets enacted. There's quite a lot of things. He has to go through some.
He should have only male massage therapists from now on, don't you think? I feel like if you're the team, if you're the team, if I'm the Browns, that's part of the contract. Just not to put himself in that situation or put the team in that situation.
I think they've gone further, and in the language of this this thing that's come out today is that he is not allowed to schedule any of his own massage session.
The whole thing is just ludicrous. I mean, it's even gotten to this point. And again, if he was not Deshaun Watson of the talent he was, we would not be talking about this guy. But because he is, this is what privilege looks like. This is what talent looks like. And look, the Browns. I always felt like this. Once the Browns made that trade, you had to know that it wasn't going to be a year suspension. Like I knew that was never going to be the case. Anybody who thought it was nuts because there's no way the Browns would have made the commitment they made to acquire him and all the money to sign him if they thought that was going to be the case. So look, at the end of the day, this is what it is. So now we're just we're in the fantasy world of it now.
I always thought it was 6 to 8 games because people made the argument about the contract and were saying, well, he's taken a low contract for that year because they're expecting him. It's like, well, no, they did this because this is what the Browns did all season with all the players they acquired. It's the way that they're balancing their cap. It's not a smart way of doing it, but it is the way that they have chosen to do it. There was a lot of misinformation. People assumed he was going to get the year. And I think that false expectation and false narrative of he's going to get that year, people have thought a year, and people thinking, hang on, he's not getting a year now. He must have done something to cajole a lesser sentence, when actually the likelihood of ever him getting that year was...
Well, it makes more sense to Murphy what happened last year when he sat out that whole season. Because I think we all looked at each other and was like, why are the Texans saying we're not going to play this guy, but we're also not suspending this guy? Like, it was a very weird circumstance. And as the story unfolds and you realize, well, there's culpability by the Texans in it, now you get it. Because I'm sure the Watson camp said something to the lines of, if you do this, we're going to drag you with us.
For it.
And everybody just decided to just cool off and just wait it out. And that's, unfortunately, that's the circumstance, and that's what's going to be. They wait, and they're going to wait out here too.
And so let's talk about the football aspect of this, because let's forget, we are where we are with this. We know the suspension.
Right.
As we've gone back and we've said this, 19 games he's going to miss in total over 21, 22 months. Different facility, different team, different conditions he's going to play in, different receivers. We're talking about a guy now who's going ADP, quarterback 18. So you're looking around pick 150. That's going to skyrocket because people are going to take a chance. What can we expect from Deshaun Watson? What can we expect from Deshaun Watson this season?
Well, the dogs are barking, as you can tell.
Sorry, the neighbours are out having a row out there, I was saying, so yeah, excuse that.
Awesome. Well, we'll see if we can get the independent arbiter to take care of him too.
Not my dogs.
Right now, I think you will see varying interest level in Deshaun Watson in fantasy. I think from a superflex standpoint, I think that there's upside enough with the 6 games where if you do it right and he is your second quarterback, that you can fill it in with a very capable, good third guy. And whether it be a Matt Ryan or somebody who's just, vanilla, but serviceable that you can deal with. Because then if you have a good team the rest of the way and you're, spending less capital on quarterback and Superflex, chances are, you're going to have some good wide receivers, some good running backs, and you can make this whole Watson strategy work. It's all about what you have to pay. In single quarterback leagues, I think he'll still be drafted by a lot of people late. I think the way to do it is to be more aggressive, is to take him, and then with your last pick, take a Derek Carr, take a Kirk Cousins, take somebody of that ilk, or take a Justin Fields if you want to play the upside game. So from the draft capital standpoint, the Watson plan makes a lot of sense, because even though you're saying, and you're 100% right, he hasn't played in a while, I watched this guy be brilliant with some horrendous surrounding talent in the Texans. He's got a much better supporting cast here. He is going through full training camp. He's done full OTAs. So I don't think picking up the playbook is going to be a problem. I don't think working with the talent he's got is going to be a problem. I think you're going to see Deshaun Watson that looks like a top 10 quarterback. It's not a top 5 quarterback at some point, very, soon in this process of him coming back. And I do believe there's a legitimate approach here, which is, again, be a little aggressive on Watson, get that guy who you think is a league winner, and then have the fallback on the guy that's safe, who you think you can just, live with until Watson comes back and plays. And if you do it right and you pick the right combinations, it could be a huge win for you from a fantasy perspective. But I have got him at 16 right now, which I think is reasonable. I've got him right next to Justin Fields because I feel like they're kind of the same. I'd rather take Cousins and Carr and Rodgers and Lance and Wilson and Stafford and all those guys. But Watson right there is that next tier where it's like, who are those roll the dice league winning guys? Could be Watson, could be Fields, Trevor Lawrence, like that group of guys. He's in that cluster for me.
So let me ask you a question from week 7, and I appreciate you're not going to do weekly rankings as yet. It's too much information and disinformation and things we need to figure out. But if you were doing a rest of season rankings right now from week 7, based on just what you know right now, where would you put Watson?
I would probably put him around 13 or 12. I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
And it's also because of the guys ahead of him. I mean, you still got the Joe Burrows and Tom Brady's, and I think it depends on how Russell Wilson gets out of the gate too. Like that's a guy that I might, if Wilson struggles on a new team and a new offense or anything like that, I could see Watson, being right ahead of him. I could see Stafford, if he's throwing too many picks, maybe being a little behind Watson. I think he's in that conversation right around the hover of 10. I think that would be reasonable, but still putting the Burrows and Brady's and Lamar Jacksons and those guys ahead of him for sure.
Okay. Dan, where would you put Watson?
I had 10 to 12 in mind before you asked. There's a lot of variables out there. The talent he's got, Amari Cooper is the big riser for me in ADP. I think we'll see in the coming weeks up to the season because of this news. But yeah, even with the team they've got now, they're going to be there or thereabouts. They're going to hope to scrape through a few weeks and then try and push for a playoff berth late on. Personally, I'm not someone who would gamble. I think on picking him up in the strategy Joe talked about of a safe bet. The safe bet for me would do in a 1 QB league. I don't think you need to pick up a second one somewhere. But yeah, the talent he's got if he comes back. They got a week 8 bye as well from memory. Is that right? I think a week 8 bye.
They have a week 9 bye.
Okay, so he's effectively going to get 2 pre-season games in, have a week off. So you're really going to get him effectively from week 10 onwards. I think you might see more of the Deshaun Watson you're used to.
So I have him at about 14 because I just think it's going to be very slow out of the gate. And also we know how Kevin Stefanski wants to run this offense. And I think it's a case of Deshaun Watson will be brought in to make explosive plays and to make game-winning plays. But ultimately, his main job here will be what he's very good at, protecting the football, not turning over the football. I still think they're going to get him in the games maybe slowly. I don't think they're going to give him the full reins early. I know what they paid for him. I know where they're at. I think it's obviously going to depend on where they are in the season, how much Jacoby Brissett does. I think that all of that's going to play in some factors. But I just look at the names in that realm. Like, I can't see him outperforming someone like Trey Lance, Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Jalen Hurts. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. And that's no disrespect to the talent. It's just 19 games missed is a long time. And those guys are going to have that fluidity. They're going to have those connections. Just think it's going to take a little bit too long. What I will say is this. His schedule for the playoffs is interesting. It's an interesting fantasy football playoff schedule that he has. And that's something that is worth looking at because he does have an easier schedule. Although right now we don't really know what the schedule means and all of those things. But based on paper and what we kind of think of teams, and this could change, he does have a more interesting schedule coming in 2022. So that fantasy football, if you're thinking about that strategy and thinking about, I want a guy who could be ready to pop in the playoffs, that's where I think the Watson strategy makes sense for me. But that's the counterpoint. I think you've got to get there first. And I think that's the trade-off you've got to have. I can't see me having too much exposure to Watson this year based on...
Topic on Watson, but sticking with the Browns really quickly. Do you think they retain Hunt now? Because that was a big one on Hunt being let go because of the money they've got to pay him if Watson missed the year. But now do they keep him and hope they can scrape the playoffs?
Yeah. I'd say
yeah, I would say they do as well. Absolutely. And you're going to need him you're going to have to lean heavily on that run game in the first 6 weeks. So I think that's also part of it. I think in some ways Hunt became more expendable the lesser the suspension might have been. But now that it's 6, it's like, okay, well, again, 6 weeks of running the football, and then Watson comes back, and then we try to look. I think if you look at the games he's missing, I think there's realistic 3-3 there. And if you can go 3-3, then you're in good shape.
Yeah. And that would mean that Dearness Johnson's the guy who's probably going to get cut there, and it'll be interesting to see where he goes.
Loads of Dearness Johnson.
They're definitely cutting one of them, so it looks like Dearness Johnson will be the guy that'll get cut. Anyway, good to move on from that. There was Alvin Kamara's got a hearing at some point. I honestly don't think there's going to be any resolution on him for quite some time. So I don't think we need to spend too much time on that. Let's talk about then QBs.
Yes.
And more importantly, because Joe, you're the quarterback guy, and we got you for about 14 more minutes. So.
Yeah, I'm super popular today. I'm like really Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport all of a sudden.
I want to talk to you about the evolution of quarterback play because the last 36 months have seen quite a significant shift in the game of fantasy football compared to the previous 7-8 games. It was late round QB, sleep on QB, pick up all your other positions. You'll get a great guy late. You'll be fine. Quarterback doesn't matter unless you play super flex and it's different. But in a 1 QB league, it didn't matter. And then now you've got this plethora of talent with Herbert and Allen and Mahomes and Murray and Jackson and Burrow and all these guys. In terms of this evolution, there's the different strategies. You're the quarterback guy. How's your strategy evolved? And where are you sitting now when it comes to
it's a great question. It's a great question. I think you have options. I think for me personally, I think it's far less advantageous than it was in the past to go ahead and be proactive and take an earlier quarterback because you're getting outstanding production, and the guys like Lamar Jackson who are like or Josh Allen who are considered like a player and a half. That's a lot on a weekly basis to deal with. Like that kind of productivity is huge, and I think there's definitely those guys, the Jalen Hurts of the world who, people love in the fantasy, but, you're always worried about, like, does the real quarterback play go backwards instead of forwards? And if so, is his job in danger? And that really becomes troublesome from a fantasy perspective. It's a passing league, and I am fine with being the first person to take Josh Allen. If Josh Allen should somehow in a league slip to the late 3rd round to me, I will take him. I'm fine with that. I'm at peace with that. I'll make it up later. But I also feel very comfortable with the depth of the pool everywhere else. And I think you have to know what kind of football player you are. Are you somebody in the fantasy world that really does have a good grasp of where the late round wide receiver and running back talent is? Do you know how to make those kind of picks to make up ground? Because you're going to need to if you take the early quarterback or the early tight end. I'd rather go early quarterback than early tight end because to me, you also are locking in somebody, typically speaking, who's going to stay healthier, and the league rules are protecting. I think the strategies are If you want to be the first to get Josh Allen at a little bit of a discount, perfect. Like I've even got him in the 4th round in some places where people are, very disciplined. Well, in the industry, everybody's super disciplined when it comes to quarterbacks, and I take advantage of that. So you're going to give me Josh Allen in the 4th round. Okay. The good news is after Josh Allen goes wherever you are in a draft, if he doesn't go to you, you have then this moment where you can basically set your watch to the next round of Justin Herbert going. So if you want to be the next one off the board, if you'd rather get, 85%, 90% of what Allen gave and go for Herbert, you can basically pinpoint, okay, this is where the race starts. Then the next grouping to me is if you want to then look at Lamar Jackson and look at that range, which you can get a little bit more of a discount on Lamar in most drafts. Every now and then you get one where somebody's super high on Lamar, but Lamar is somebody you can go after. Then after that, then it's about letting it come to you. Burrow, Prescott, Murray, Hurts. To me, you can let any of those guys come to you. If you get them at a good value, you feel good. I still think Burrow is in that, closer to the top tier than he is to the bottom of the tier, because I don't think we've seen a healthy, complete, amazing Joe Burrow season. I think towards the end of the year, you really started to get Joe Burrow figuring it out, and my goodness, they put up some points. And then at the end, and if you still don't want to do that, or it still doesn't go your way, or you miss it on the runs, then it's all right, let me take a capable Stafford. Let me take a capable Russell Wilson. Or better yet, let me shoot early for Trey Lance, then take a Stafford, a Wilson, a Rodgers, a Carr, and back it up. And I think that's perfectly fine too. So it's not like there's one path to it. I think the path is, I always say the same thing: be prepared and be flexible. Those are the best 2 things you can be in a draft. And if you're prepared and flexible, you'll get the good quarterback value where it belongs. And that value can be the 1 quarterback, and the value can be quarterback 12 and 15. And taking 2 of those guys and trying to play matchups, figure it out, take a Deshaun Watson late, whatever it might be. Because I do think there's a certain amount of floor with guys like Carr and Cousins too. I think are, in store for very good seasons this year. And I do think you're going to still find upside with Fields and Lawrence. So it's super flex where it gets more complicated. It's super flex where I think I don't like to leave those first 4 rounds without 2 quarterbacks in some fashion.
Mm-hmm. In terms of because the 1 QB you've left off the board there is Patrick Mahomes. So Patrick Mahomes is the QB2 there on ADP. I could probably know why, and I'm in the similar boat to you here. Why is Patrick Mahomes this generational talent, highest paid player in the league? We're talking about Super Bowl winner, MVP winner, but for the last 2 seasons he's been QB4. And now we've got this diminishing cast that he has. Why is it that I don't know? Why is it not translating onto the box score for him to put up that monster season that we saw?
Well, I think it's just unknown. And I don't have a problem taking Mahomes. In fact, I love when Mahomes comes at a discount. I've seen Mahomes go after Herbert, Jackson, and Kyler Murray. I've seen him go after Jalen Hurts in some drafts where people just love Hurts and the rushing ability. Well, because people they fall in love with the rushing ability, and the rushing ability is a separator, and it's something that we know it's a thing, and it absolutely works, and it's intellectually proven and smart, and it's a good way to use draft capital. But to me personally, like if you're going to give me any discount on Mahomes, I will still take it. There's unknowns, but it's not impossible. I mean, look, whatever you think of Juju is fair. I have a lot of hope for Sky Moore personally. That was the guy that I loved going into the draft. That was the guy that I was like, wow, that's a really good landing spot for that guy. I think, they signed MVS. It's just different and new. And I think people are a little afraid of that. So I think Mahomes realistically, if you gave me Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, I would probably take Lamar Jackson because of the rushing ability, because of the contract looming, because of all those things that make sense to me. And then I would take Mahomes after, personally. And that's kind of where I'm at, because I'm trying to win a league. And now we have that one little bit of inkling of doubt of, can I win is Mahomes in a single QB league winning the league for you? Or are you better off using that draft capital elsewhere, spending it on big-time wide receivers or running backs that are still available that are good, and then letting quarterback come to you? And I think in that sense, you could see a Trey Lance at some point in time or somebody like that having a really productive fantasy season. And I think you have to weigh those options. I don't think Mahomes is done. I don't think he's toast. I think that story is ridiculous. But I do think the unknown makes him harder to invest in, and I think that's fair.
I'd say that tier 2 QB has got closer to the tier 1 QBs in terms of scoring potential. And I'd also say there's a greater depth in that tier 2. So actually, if you miss one of the tier 1 guys, it isn't then a fight for 2 or 3 guys. There's probably then 5 or 6 that sit in that next
That's
bracket.
exactly
So
that grouping too. That
the
Burrow,
panic
Prescott,
isn't there
Murray.
anymore.
Exactly. It's like, well, then whoever makes it to me the best value is good. Like Dak is good, Burrow's good, Murray's good. Like all those, that's fine. Tom Brady's still pretty good too. Like all those guys are still going to put up a fair amount of points. They're all going to be top 10 quarterbacks theoretically. So then it's a matter of don't reach for them and this is the black book's helpful because it shows you the percentages and then you're like, well, there's the guys that move the needle and then there's the guys that don't, but they're still very good. You know, you don't want to, I would prefer, again, if you're going to take a Wilson, I would like to have a little upside second quarterback just in the off chance. Like I would like to have Fields or Lawrence on my roster or Watson on my, just in case things don't work out as great as we hope in Denver necessarily. Like I think there's in Aaron Rodgers, same thing. It's like Aaron Rodgers' days of being prolific, I think might be over. Still gonna be a good quarterback, but you might want some more fantasy upside. And I think that's why if you start to go to the bottom of the quarterback, like 10, 11, 12, then getting a second guy, especially a rushing second guy, an athletic second guy, is probably very wise.
So, Joe, who are your favorite QBs at ADP at the minute then? Who are you looking at?
In terms of like the ADP, again, I don't mind the Josh Allen ADP. It does not scare me. In terms of the other guys I think are valuable right now, I think Joe Burrow at 54 is a really good value where he's going currently. I do think Stafford at 88 overall is also a tremendous value in that offense. But the caveat is right now, Trey Lance is going 101. I'd rather break the top 100 for Lance than Stafford because I feel like I could get what I get out of Stafford out of maybe Carr or Cousins, but I can't get what I might be able to get out of Trey Lance with the other guys. So I want to get Trey Lance, and then I'll take one of those stand in the pocket. I know what I'm getting quarterbacks just to give myself a little bit of insurance. And to me, that is a good league winning strategy. Like to me, that's maybe the best of all the worlds where you build in some upside. Yes, you have to use more than one draft pick in a single quarterback league on the QB, but I think having, going early, not waiting till pick 100 for Trey Lance, but going pick 90 for Trey Lance, then taking Aaron Rodgers after, taking Stafford later, or then taking Carr. I think, in super flex leagues, Carr and Cousins are great values. At 14, 15, if you decided to punt early on quarterback and you get both of those dudes, I think you're probably crushing it. Tua is unknown to me still. I'd rather take a shot on Fields than Tua. That's just me. I know that sounds crazy because they say, well, look at all the weapons, but you know what? Like Tua still got to prove it to me. Fields as a quarterback prospect, I just felt was a better quarterback prospect, period. I like the value of Mac Jones in Superflex at the 20th quarterback. He's going at basically 160. I think Ryan and Winston as your back end, QB2s are decent values, but I want to get those guys as QB2s. That's like the last drop off for me because after that, the Wentz, Mayfield, Daniel Jones, I don't want anything to do with those guys unless they're my third quarterback on my bench.
Murph, how about yourself?
I think, listen, I love the same QB every year, which is Tom Brady, and it's always,
he always comes at a value, doesn't he? He always finishes 6?
Yeah, outperforms his ADP every year.
He was 3 last year.
Yeah.
Currently coming off as what? QB 10.
He came off. Yeah, he was drafted at QB 12. And listen, I said it last year on your podcast, Joe. I'm going to say it again this year. He's going to throw between 4,800 and 5,000 yards. He's going to throw for 40 touchdowns. And he's going to have a high completion percentage rate. That's good for top 5. It's good for top 5. No one's going to... He's a top 5 QB. This is
2
why
rushing
I
touchdowns last year as well.
Let's not forget those 2.
That's the thing, too. It's like someone will go early on Kyler Murray or early on Hurts, and then Tom Brady will float. But, if you look at it realistically, the players you're passing on then at that same general ADP, I mean, you're talking about guys who can really impact your roster in a positive way. I mean, the guys like Amari Cooper and Cortland Sutton are going in that same range as Kyler Murray, and then you can still get Tom Brady. I think that's the difference of who you have to pass on, in order to take that quarterback who has that rushing appeal. But, the thing with quarterback rushing appeal is it comes at a price because the injury quotient is higher. It's higher for guys like Murray. It's higher for guys like Hurts. Lamar Jackson last year, you have to be willing to eat that. And I think some people just see the points and don't see the downside too, because when you're out there in space, you're taking more hits, you're taking more shots.
And this is why I can't take Joe Burrow. I can't take Joe Burrow ADP. I don't understand his ADP. And I understand what you're saying. Great quarterback, all this, blah, blah, blah.
Well, he's like Brady, but more mobile. Burrow's more mobile than people give him credit for, and he was in college.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't think we've seen that at the NFL level because he was a rookie and then he got hurt. And I think now you might see a little bit more of that, but you're not wrong. Like
how
in terms
much
of
more
draft capital you're on.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. How much more rushing are you going to get out of Joe Burrow for the 3 to 4 round discount you're getting?
Yeah,
because that is what you're paying. You are paying the difference up between Burrow and Brady is 35 picks. So 3 rounds. Paying 3 rounds, I still think
37-yard differential rushing last year.
Right, 37 yards rushing, and Brady blew him out of the water with touchdowns. He blew him out of the water with yards. I can't see a path where Joe Burrow is going to pass Tom Brady. I just don't. I don't see it this year. And if I'm wrong, I'll eat my hat. I really will. I'll find a taste. I'll get a chocolate hat made and I'll eat it. Like whatever. But
you just got out of the hospital. Stop eating chocolate hats. I don't think that's going to work out well for you.
For me, it's just about you try and find a player that outperforms where you take them. That's how you win a league, right?
Always.
Burrow's going as QB5.
That wide receiver and that wide receiver, area there. You're talking about guys like Gabe Davis. You're talking about guys like Rashad Bateman. All the guys that we all think can outperform their ADP. So you might as well just wait that out. And I do agree with that sentiment. And that's why I have Brady ahead of Burrow in my rankings. I have Brady at 5.
There we go. So how can you be happy with Burrow's ADP then?
I'm not happy with it, but here's the thing. I know what I'm getting with Burrow, and I do believe there's another gear yet to come there.
Yeah, I agree.
But I was a very big Joe Burrow guy coming into the league when a lot of people had questions. And the makeup is there. Jamar Chase is all world. The offense, think about what he did last year with the offensive line being what it was, and they spent more on the offensive line than any other team. So I think that change alone could really benefit them. And you're right, there's probably a ceiling there. Sure, there's probably a limit. And if that limit is Tom Brady, but you also do have to always keep in the back of your mind, Tom Brady is 147 years old. And, at some point in time, maybe it does stop, but until it does, there he is. Nice and warm and snuggly in the hat. There you go. Nice. Tom Brady for you.
Don't forget, he's got the best wide receiver 4 that we've ever seen in the NFL.
Look, man, he's going to sling the ball all over the place. You know that, and I know that. I mean, that's just where they're at. And he didn't come back to not win. No. He's Tom Brady. So keep telling him he can't. Go ahead. Keep telling him, everyone. We know how Tom Brady reacts to that.
Well, Joe, you've got to go on television, so we got to let you go. Before you go, tell everyone where they can find you, where they can find the Black Book, and everything you're doing.
Well, first of all, again, happy to see you at home, up and about. Take it easy. No safaris anytime soon for you. We can obviously catch me out on the Fantasy Pros podcast. And of course, the Fantasy Football Black Book is now on Amazon. You can go get that. And as well, if you want to join a fun Superflex league, we got one running on Fantrax, which is fun right now. The Superflex Challenge. It's free to join. We're giving away a Najee Harris jersey to the winner. We have 150 people in it now. We have 240 slots available. So it's on my Twitter profile at Joe Pisapia 17. You can find it and join there and have some fun. And always fun talking quarterbacks. And again, remember, everybody, there's more than one way to do it. It doesn't have to be this way or that way. Let the draft come to you. And as Dan was saying, it's about the value you're getting at quarterback. That's the most important thing. If you can get Josh Allen at a value, awesome. If Josh Allen goes in the first round of the single quarterback league, it wasn't meant to be.
Absolutely. Joe, thank you so much.
No, pleasure, sir.
Cheers, mates. Good to see you.
You take it easy, man. All the best, mate. Well, that was entertaining as always.
Awesome insight.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
But no, I'm with you. I can't see Burrow paying back QB5 numbers.
I don't get it.
I think this is where NFL ability and fantasy relevance are blurred. Does that make sense a little?
100%.
Fantastic, leading them to the Super Bowl. Great. But actually that doesn't translate. And sometimes you look at QBs like Jalen Hurts, who has question marks over his starting ability as an NFL QB. Actually is probably a better fantasy relevant player.
Yeah. And again, we're talking, I said it just now, it's 35 spots.
Yeah.
It's 35 picks between Tom Brady and Joe Burrow. That's a lot. That's 3 rounds. And you just contextualize that in your head. When you're going to press the button on Joe Burrow, just because even if you reach around on Tom Brady, right? Even if you reach around, it's 2. Even 2 rounds. Can you? This is what I'm, and also I'm going to put Dak Prescott in the same bracket because I can't see a world where Dak Prescott is going to outscore Tom Brady. Now that difference is 24 draft picks, so that's 2 whole rounds. I don't see that. I don't see how that in any world. And this is I'm not besmirching these players. They're great players. I loved Joe Burrow down the stretch last year. He was phenomenal. I think Dak Prescott is an underrated quarterback. I still think he's good. And as you say, in the real world of NFL quarterbacks, I think he has the ability to win a Super Bowl. I'm not knocking his talent.
Yeah.
It's just the value. And this is where I think I look at that tier, and I think that tier is a lot smaller than I think people should view it. And I think for me, if I'm going to pay up in that round, I want an elite player because of what you're going to give up. So I will take a Herbert if he falls there. I will take a Mahomes if he falls there. I'll take a Jackson. I will take a Murray.
Yeah.
And then it's Hurts. Maybe. But to be honest, I still think I'd take Brady over Hurts. I think at that point, I'm quite happy to wait for that Brady.
Okay.
I still think I'm ready to wait for that Brady tier.
I took Brady at 106 in the Scott Fishbowl, so I can't talk.
Yeah, I mean, but in that format,
and I still think he'll outperform QB6, so I'm still okay with that.
Yeah, and I absolutely. So I just sit there and think, as Joe said, I think Joe hit this really poignantly. That tier's a lot smaller for me. Mm-hmm. So if I'm looking at that and thinking the upside for me is Tom Brady, that's the upside tier. I'm willing to pass that back end tier of Prescott, Burrow, Hurts. I'm willing to punt that tier. That tier can go for me.
Yeah.
If I miss Brady, and it happens, I'm probably quite comfortable punting. I'm probably quite comfortable punting to Trey Lance. I think that to me is probably the next best strategy.
It's the upside pick there, yeah.
Is to
it's
do
a clear
that.
upside pick.
Yeah. And I think that,
and I'd argue Tua potentially as well, but
I'm with you on that. I'm definitely. I think I'm not. I don't think
he's growing on me, and I don't like it, but he is growing on me.
There's 2 elements to this, and this goes back to the real world versus the. This goes back to the real world versus fantasy side of things, right? Take the real world aspect of it. I think in real world he's a very limited quarterback. I think he is someone who is highly accurate in very short to intermediate throws, who will be very questionable on long throws. He'll make some, he won't make some. It'll be very very statuesque, make a few plays here and there. He'll be very similar to he'll be a not as good. He'll be basically
QB too. And that's what they are.
Well, he will be he'll be like a 70% Drew Brees. That's basically what I kind of view him to be, right? That's basically what I view him. I view him as a 70% Drew Brees. That's kind of, you can call that harsh. I don't really care. So I think about that and think about, but there's a role for that. And I think actually, if you saw how productive Brees was, even 70% of Drew Brees is still a low end QB1. And it's in his premium.
It will take 70% of Drew Brees' career right now.
Yeah, and I think I'm not saying his career, but in terms of his numbers and his not his efficiency, because he'll be efficient. But the thing you've got here is you've got the playmakers. So Tua doesn't have to make the plays. Tua just has to get the ball in the hands of Tyreek Hill. He's just got to get the ball in the hands of Jalen Waddle. He's just got to get the ball in the hands of people like Mike Gesicki and Cedric Wilson. He has got playmakers. He has got people who will have yard after catch ability everywhere that will make, and those points count.
Yeah.
Those points count. Like, he doesn't need, if he didn't have Tyreek Hill and he didn't have Jalen Waddle, and if he was throwing to the same core of players he was throwing to last year, I wouldn't be interested. It's like, yeah, he'll be QB 16, QB 18. He'll be pretty boring, and he'll just sort of sail through and
this is that tier you're looking for upside.
Right, and I think the upside, but he doesn't bring the upside. The players around him will do it.
Tyreek Hill brings that upside too.
And he will find Tyreek Hill because he is that accurate. And Mike McDaniel's a clever coach, and they will make that work. So I am with you. I do think Tua is a value.
Okay. But
it's not because he is instantly better than the quarterbacks around him. It's just because there's a little pocket of what's going on there that I just think you can buy into, and it makes a lot of sense.
Tua right now, ADP is on sleeper QB 16.
Yeah, so he's going at pick 122, which is 11th round.
Yep.
So you could take Tua.
He falls in that bracket like Joe said, though, where you take two. Rather than getting an early guy, you don't want Tua as you don't want Tua as your QB2 if you've taken a Herbert or an Allen. This is one where you're going to pick up a Carr or a Cousins with a safe floor and then gamble on the upside of Tua. As you say, round 8, 9, 10, 11, double tap on a turn, put them both in the bank and move on.
You could be really different and take Tua and Fields.
But then I feel
if you're on that turn, you could double tap them and see which one pops.
But then you're only shooting upside. And with the way that both of them are built, you could start the wrong one each week.
Of course you could. Oh, it's a gamble, but if you want to try something different, it would be out of the box. I'm not recommending it as a strategy.
It would be an agonizing decision each week to sit and try and pick which one you're going to put in, right?
Yeah, it really would. But I think there's some interesting plays around that sort of field. I just think I'm going to look at teams this year, and I think when we come back and we're going to analyze the teams that won championships this year, and we look at the quarterback position, do I think more people are going to win championships with Joe Burrow as their quarterback?
No.
Or do I think more people are going to win championships with someone like Trey Lance as their quarterback? I can't help but feel it's going to be someone like Trey Lance. That's what my spider senses are tingling me. Like that's where
right now. It's the unknown, I think, which is keeping his ADP where it is. Next year, he'll be amongst the Lamar, the Jalen Hurts, the Kyler Murray bracket. He'll be in that mid-tier 2 range.
Yeah, and I think I just can't see. I think you've got to have an exceptional draft if you take Burrow, Dak. I'd even maybe throw Kyler Murray in there, if I'm honest. I think Kyler's fine. Fine. If I had a choice of those three, Kyler Murray is the 3 I would have. But I'm not sure I'm excited to get any of those 3 players. I don't think those 3 are league winners to me. I don't look at those 3 players and think they're a league winner. I think they are.
Murray can stay healthy again. He's shown he can be. It's just the knocks he gets so often. When that first year in, he came with this baseball sliding style, avoiding of being hit, and then he picked up a couple of injuries, and it's just tempered off a little bit in terms of the playmaking ability somewhat. So I don't know if he can get back to that a bit. He's going to add extra yards to each carry. I think that'll make a difference.
It will, but it's also a consistency thing with him. And we're looking at Kyler Murray. Finishes in fantasy football. That 2020 season when he finished. Where did he finish? Like QB5, QB6, I think.
Have a look. 2020 was QB3.
Okay.
6,
he was QB.
6 in his debut season, 3 after, 10 last year, having missed 3 games.
Fine.
So effectively, it'd have been 7 or 8 again, let's say, if he played them games.
Okay. So you need him to be in that 3-4 range for that to work.
Well, that's it. He's coming off board as QB6, which is where he'll finish in a good year.
I think that's where I don't want to. I'm looking at league winners, right? I'm looking at people who can win leagues. Josh Allen win a league. Justin Herbert win a league. Lamar Jackson will win a league. Tom Brady at his ADP wins a league for me. I think even Aaron Rodgers at his ADP potentially wins a league for you. Matt Stafford probably at his ADP. I don't know. Probably. I don't think so. I think I'm probably not quite there. But Trey Lance, I think they're the players that kind of can win your leagues. I don't think there's that many league winning quarterbacks. And I think what happens is the run starts and people panic. And I think people panic too much. And people go, I have to have a Burrow, a Prescott, Hurt, and I don't think there's a drop off between them and Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. Not enough for me to pay up.
Yeah, see, I play those top guys minus Burrow for me. If the value's there, I'll take them. That mid lot of Dak, Rodgers, Stafford, I'm almost going to ignore because there isn't the upside to them. And they're being taken at where they're going to finish. Okay, it's a reliable bet. But as we said earlier, you need to outperform where you take them at almost every pick to be able to win a league. So the guys that are going to do that are going to be Tua, are going to be Lance, that you'll pick up later on. So I'll shoot for the consistent wide receiver 4s on my rosters, the running back 3s on my rosters, those guys in that slot instead, and I'll pick up a Trey Lance 2-3 rounds later over an Aaron Rodgers right now.
Yeah, I do think there's a merit to having. I look at Aaron Rodgers, right? Aaron Rodgers is at pick 94, so he's QB 12.
Mm-hmm.
I look at Aaron Rodgers at pick 94, QB 12, and think, if I miss Brady, I'll pay pick 90 for Aaron Rodgers because I'll back him to finish above QB 12. Because when has Aaron Rodgers not finished above QB 12?
When he's played a full season, never. Not been outside the top 10 when he's played a full season. Not been outside the top 9 for argument's sake. But he has had Devontae Adams practically for all of it. And now he doesn't.
No,
of course.
Listen, there is a slight risk to it, but I also think he's still a statistical machine. I think I think it's a boring pick. I don't look at that and go, oh, yes, I'm so excited. But I can't see a reason why he wouldn't beat someone like Matt Stafford or Russell Wilson. I just don't. I don't see a reason he wouldn't finish above them. I'm not predicting him to finish in the top 5. But again, you're talking about even the small marginal win there. If you can win
12, you win more picks than you lose,
and that's how you got to do it. And I think that's why someone like Aaron Rodgers to me is a good pick at that stage. And I think if you get him and then you take Trey Lance, that really excites. I think that as a combination is a really good winning combination because you can start Rodgers in your early weeks because he's not going to cost you. He's not going to burn you, Aaron Rodgers. He'll keep you competitive. And you can see what you've got in Trey Lance. Is Trey Lance?
And he's got the Vikings and Chicago. So he's got a couple of nice, friendly QB games to play.
Right, and they're divisional games, and he's up for them, and all of those sorts of things. I think
he's got the Giants week 5, Jets week 6, Washington week 7. So
I think it's a strong strategy. I think you can take Rodgers, and you can take Lance one round later. I think you can double tap QB there because you're getting sort of the first sort of 7 rounds to fill your roster there, 8 rounds to fill your roster there. And I think you can sit there and build your roster with 4 running backs, 4 wide receivers, or however you want to stack your roster there. You've kind of got this really nice meat and drink of your roster. You've got your depth. You've got everything. You maybe put a tight end in there, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. You can double tap QB, lock that in. Don't worry about it for the rest of the draft. Then you go and just get your cream, and then you're sorted. And I think you'll have a really strong roster. I think, as Joe said, it's about being flexible. I wouldn't go in with that mindset. But if I missed on the elite guys and I missed on Brady, that Rodgers-Lance combination to me seems to be the one that really goes, I'd have some of that. I think I'll probably have a few teams this year that will look like that. And I'd feel very comfortable starting Aaron Rodgers week 1, week 2. See what I've got in Lance. If Lance goes and puts up 40-point weeks, well, it's easy to make the switch. If it takes him some time, That's okay. I've got Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is going to put me up 20 points a week. It's going to be boring. But he's not going to cost me a week. He's not going to lose me many games. He might not win me many games, but he's not going to lose me many games. I'm not going to lose many games with Aaron Rodgers as my quarterback. I'll lose because my tight end didn't score, or my running backs didn't score, or something like that. So that's where I just think play your percentages. Look at where there's some value. So let's talk about some players who are. We've talked about our least favorite. You and me are very similar.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Lawrence on your list of least favorites, which is fine, but he's not really getting drafted. So in a 1 QB league, so it's not overly important to mention him. Players we expect to outperform ADP. And we've talked about Trey Lance, so we're not going to talk about him anymore. And we've talked about I put on here Russell Wilson, but I think only just well, I just look at who he's around, and he's going between.
He's QB8 on Sleeper, 77.
Yes, he's QB8 on Sleeper, but everywhere else he's lower. Like Sleeper is starting to elevating him higher.
Okay.
So he's picked 77. So he's
going.
I
don't like him at QB8.
Yeah, see, he's going.
There's too many unknowns.
So he's going more at QB 10.
Okay.
So at QB 10, I'm sitting there thinking, well, I can see a path where he outperforms Dak Prescott and Joe Burrow, maybe.
He's going ahead of Dak and Brady and Rodgers here.
Yes, he's going ahead of Brady. He's going ahead of Rodgers. But he's going ahead of Stafford, which I think is right.
It is.
So
I just don't know. There's too many unknowns there for me right now.
Yeah, I think there is, but I just think in terms of I look at where you can get him now. So I'm thinking he really is QB 10. And I look at what's available at QB 10 and think, well, okay, it's him, it's Brady and Rodgers. And obviously I would have Brady and Rodgers over Wilson, but then I think Stafford. I'm not sold on Jalen Hurts. I don't think Jalen Hurts is someone. I know there's the rushing side.
I just don't see the upside in taking him. So pick 77, shoot the upside. Drake London 78, Gabriel Davis 81, Devontae Smith 82, and then come back and take.
I think
because Aaron Rodgers in the next round.
I get that. I think the difference is I can see a path to where Russell Wilson can finish as a top 5 QB because we've seen it. Don't forget, this is a guy who has finished as the QB1 overall. He has done it. I'm not saying he's going to. I'm not saying he is going to be a top 5 QB. I don't have him in my top 5 QBs. But he's got a very good cast of weapons there.
It was 2017. He was QB1.
It was a while. Yeah, he's had some injuries since then, but he's also had some. But he's had seasons where he's able to put up, good yardage and good numbers, and he's got Nathaniel
in a rushing first offense as well. He's had it in Seattle.
And he's got Nathaniel Hackett there now as his head coach, and they're going to be very offensive minded, and they're going to throw the ball a lot. And I think his pass attempts will be much more in line with those 2017, 2018 numbers than what we have seen in the years that followed that. So I can see a path. I don't necessarily think it's going to happen, but I can. For me, I think there is a morsel of upside there. I'm not saying it's Trey Lance upside. I'm not saying it's Tua upside. I'm not saying it's definitely Tom Brady upside.
But if you draft him at QB 10 and he performs at QB 9, we talk about small wins and winning more than you lose. That's a win.
Yeah, and I think he's going to finish QB 7, QB 8. That's where I kind of think he's going to be in that sort of realm. But I can see him having elite weeks as well. I see him having game-winning weeks as they start to click and get things going. They're going to be in the highest scoring division in football.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be behind the lot of games. They're going to be ahead in the lot of games. They're going to be behind the lot of games. That division is nuts. That division is so loaded with talent. And this brings on Stacey's question about Derek Carr.
Yes.
Can Derek Carr finish in the top 10 this year? Yes. Do I think he will? No. And it's not on his talent at all.
No.
I actually am a big fan of Derek Carr. I actually think he's an underrated player. I just think the other guys are too good. I think it's not it's not Derek Carr. It's just the other guys are too good. I actually think that Derek Carr could outperform Joe Burrow.
The only route I see to Derek Carr finishing top 10 is if Jackson goes down for 3 games and Murray goes down for 3 games.
Yeah, I think it will definitely take something. He will take some injuries to get there. If everyone was healthy and equal, well, let's go through the numbers. Is he gonna be better than Josh Allen? No. Is he gonna be better than Mahomes? No. Is he gonna be better than Herbert? No. Is he gonna be better than Jackson? No. Is he gonna be better than Murray? No. Is he gonna be better than Burrow? I could see it. I don't think so.
Enough, I don't think.
No, probably not. Is he gonna be better than Dak? No. Is he gonna be better than Hurts? Probably not. Is he going to be better than Brady? No. Is he going to be better than Rodgers? No. Is he going to be better than Wilson? No. Is he going to be better than Stafford? Stafford could drop off. Probably not. Is he going to be better than Trey Lance? I wouldn't think so.
No.
So now we're at 14. So he is where he is. And I think what people kind of don't. I think what people don't understand is that analysts are very good with quarterback predictions. It's the only prediction. It's the only position they've really nailed.
Yeah.
These guys get it right. I write about this in the playbook. It's pretty accurate. Like 70-80% right. It's well over the 55-60% kind of margins that you get when you're trying to make predictions and hedge wins. And I think when you're looking at it, you have to try and understand why someone is the way they is. You said this with Trey Lance, and you're absolutely spot on. Trey Lance is where he is because he's unknown. That is it.
Yeah.
If we'd seen Trey Lance play a season of football and knew what we were getting, we would know a lot more about where his ADP is and where it should be. We know that Watson's ADP is because we didn't know about his suspension. Now we'll see what the market believes he is worth, and that will be accurate. Yeah. Derek Carr is where he is because that's probably not far off where he's going to finish.
Yeah.
He's going to finish. Listen, I think he could finish QB 12. I think that is in his range of outcomes. Do I think he finishes higher than that? No, I just don't. I don't see it. It would, and also it's just Josh McDaniels for me. Clever coach, very creative, but we're not. Josh McDaniels has not coached. I mean, he had Tom Brady and that offense, and he wasn't coaching Tom Brady to high-end QB1 offensive performances. And then you can talk about Bill Belichick and New England style football and defense and all this malarkey, right? But the bottom line is this. There's no proven formula that Josh McDaniels coaches high-performing fantasy football quarterbacks. It just hasn't really happened. And until that happens, you can't predict something that hasn't really happened unless you have a really good foundation on it. And I don't have one. That's it for me. Someone's mentioned about the AFC Championship game, Bills v Chiefs. I can't put the Chiefs there. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't look at the Chiefs roster and think they're gonna get there.
I'd do another NFL based show, really small, couple of mates, and I've gone to far side as the Chiefs don't make the playoffs.
Okay.
The way they came out last year, early on in the season, they managed to rectify a few things, but I just think they look very one-dimensional right now. And I think of all the teams in that division have made a step forward to make themselves better on both sides of the ball, and the Chiefs actually haven't. I think if you look player for player across the roster, they're probably worse.
I think the D's improved. I think because they're a tried and tested unit who've gone through that adversity for the most part, I think I get what you're saying. I think they probably get there.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're the scary force that they were. I don't think they've got that fear factor anymore that they had 18 months ago when they got humble. Okay, they got humble. I think that Super Bowl loss in the manner that they lost to the Buccaneers, I think that really, forget the hangover. I think that the league was shown that you can stop the Chiefs from scoring touchdowns. And I think as soon as that went away, that air of invincibility kind of left. And I know they put it together second half of last season. They got on a roll, confidence flew. but they weren't a free-flowing offense. And then the Bengals D stopped them. Yep. And I think that's what you've got to remember is those chinks and armors are there now. They don't have those playmakers. Yeah, I think they make the playoffs, but I think there's better teams in the AFC. I think there's a lot better teams in the AFC. I think the Bills are the favorites. Don't get me wrong. I think they're the easy favorites in the AFC. But I think, I look at Baltimore with all the injuries they had, they still made the playoffs last year. I look at the Titans have got a pretty easy division. I think they've got everything potentially to put it together. I look at New England and, second year with what they've built, never rule them out. They could be one of those teams you go to Foxborough and it's just a horrible place to go. You just never know. I don't think they win the division, so maybe being on the road might stick them a little bit. I look at the Bengals. Don't forget the Bengals are the reigning AFC champions. They can put up points on anybody if they put it together. You look at Denver potentially with what they've got. You've got the Chargers. If the Chargers roster is stacked, like it's stacked everywhere. You look at the Chargers. The Chargers should be in the AFC title game based on names. If you played this game on paper or Madden or wherever you want to play it on, the Chargers roster from top to bottom is right up there with the best in the NFL. I don't think they get there because I don't know if I back the coach to do it. But what I will say is that roster is stacked. It is absolutely stacked with talent. There's so many teams. I just think it's going to be an attrition war. It's going to be interesting.
Fair. Any other QBs you want to mention? Because I've got one I just want to put an honourable mention in.
You put one honourable mention in, I'll finish with one honourable mention and we'll go from there, and then we'll wrap it up.
Awesome. Mine's going undrafted in one QB leagues, but we talk about upside and we talk about outperforming your ADP and where you're at and having a win, right? Yeah. You've seen it on the list now, haven't you?
Well, I knew you were going to mention him before I even wrote the question, so yeah, okay. I'm not familiar.
Jared Goff is not a QB 28 in the NFL.
No.
He can't be. So he has to outperform that for me. The 3 years, okay, the injuries affected him. 3 years he's played all the games. He's finished 12, 13, and 6. Detroit have brought in DJ Shark. They brought in Jameson Williams. TJ Hawkinson should be back fit and healthy. They have weapons there. I think Goff's at 28 because it's very unsexy to pick a Detroit Lions quarterback right now.
Yeah.
And no real other reason. Superflex, Jared Goff as a QB3, what upside that is. Because that guy's going to be better than QB 28 at the end of the year.
Got some breaking news for you.
Oh.
Alvin Kamara's court hearing has been delayed by 60 days.
Okay.
Which means it's going to put it in the middle of the season. So do you know what's going to happen when it gets to 60 days time?
Down to after the season.
Fine.
They'll kick an evidential hearing down the road and they'll deal with it in the off season.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's pretty much what you and I talked about privately this morning.
Yep.
So Alvin Kamara has been kicked down the road 60 days. I don't think I expected that necessarily to happen, but it has.
No, I thought they'd have moved it right away.
I thought they moved it right away, but they go 60 days, which puts it into October. They're not going to do this hearing in October. It will be,
which is a good thing for redrafts now, because where's he coming out? Round late
second
3?
round.
No, second round.
He is going at pick. No, he's climbed. He's picked 20, so back end of the second. He's going at RB11.
But he is a top 10 running back if he plays all season, and he will play all season.
Considering these are the players that are going ahead of him right now. Nick Chubb, who has that talent, but the injury prone.
Yep.
So he's RB10 at 15, pick 15. Yep. Going next to him is Javonte Williams, who's RB9, which you and I...
Split backfield.
Right. DeAndre Swift, who's going at the back end of the first round, which I just don't understand. That's absolutely wild for me. He's not done anything in the NFL that justifies that to me. So I already look at Alvin Kamara and think, well, he's at worst, he's 8. Mind you, I still think Leonard Fournette, RB14, is absolutely wild.
And we also know Kamara has game-winning 2-3 touchdown games in him that will win you weeks.
He was the RB1 in 2020.
Yeah.
It's the RB1 in 2020. What more do you want?
See, I thought with the hearing today being moved, the discount would go. I thought we'd suddenly see him move into that, I don't know,
I mean, you might
10 pick slot. But the fact they've only moved it 60 days for me actually says you might have the rest of this redraft season now to actually still get Kamara at a discount. And I wouldn't be scared about doing it now either.
No, I've been punching the button on him all summer.
Yeah.
I genuinely didn't ever believe he would ever get a ban in season. So I've been punching that button. I think I have Alvin Kamara in most big tournaments.
We'll earmark this for 60 days' time when they come out of his 8-game ban.
Yeah, well, if that happens, then I'm going to have a really bad year. I think I have him on so many teams, especially in the big tournaments, because he was such a value.
We talk about value. We talk about beating where you get him. Yeah,
be where you get him. Absolutely. My QB, I mentioned this very quickly because we should go.
Quickly.
Yeah, it's Davis Mills. It's exactly the same argument. Davis Mills is not a 29.
Davis Mills, I know.
He's not a 29 QB in the world in the NFL. He's much better than that. He's going to be given all the weapons. He's going to be given time. He's got no competition. None. There's zero.
He hasn't.
Throw the ball.
I'm going to temper that slightly though, because him and Goff are very similar in ADP, right?
Yeah. They're going pretty much back to back.
So one side has made a definitive effort to make their offense better. One has a very consistent with last year, I guess. The quality of the skill players around him is different to me. And Goff's been there and done it. And Mills has had 1 year, which was steady. And yeah, he will finish for me 22, 24. But I think upside pick, Goff's the unknown there.
A little bit. I think for me, here's the reason why I think he's much better is, first of all, there's just no turnovers with Mills. Very, very few.
He's only had 1 year.
But last 5 games of last season, he completed nearly 69% of his passes. He threw for over 250 yards a game. He threw 9 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, and he was throwing to just Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
You know, he has got more weapons there now. He does have a bit more support. They have bought a run game in for him because that wasn't there. You have got he is exceptionally good with his arm. He's got a very, very good arm.
He does.
And he's highly
accurate. Higher coming out of college. I know he was the year before.
I was higher than anyone. And I am a big fan of his talent. And I'm not sitting here thinking he's going to set the world alight. But I will say this. If Davis Mills finishes QB 16, just don't be shocked.
Yeah.
Because I see that is in his range of outcomes. And I think for me, he is the best QB3 super flex option you'll pick up. Him or Mac Jones. Both of them. Or Jared Goff. Let's have all 3 of them in a tier. All 3 can go in a tier. I'm happy to take any of those as my QB3.
I think Mac Jones is probably a tier above the other 2, to be honest with you.
Yeah, maybe. But he costs a lot more.
Yeah. So.
But don't be afraid to have. Listen, I think what you and I are saying is this. Davis Mills or Jared Goff are going to be better than the following names in Superflex.
Cool. I'll say if I disagree.
Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of thinking.
So now you've taken them from 28 and 29 to 2022.
Yeah. So
then your injuries sneak in and Matt
Ryan, Jameis Winston, Deshaun Watson.
Matt Ryan I'm torn on because I was incredibly high on Matt Ryan last year. And I know the Falcons were bad, but I actually put a lot of that on Matt Ryan's door. Matt Ryan.
His arm's gone. His arm's gone.
Yeah, suddenly he moves team. Yes, he's got a better line. Yes, he's got better weapons. But we suddenly think he's a Matt Ryan of 2019. And he isn't. He was last year's Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I can't quite get that.
Yeah, I agree.
Personally. So he'd be one I'm missing all over the gap.
I'm not picking him.
So much last year.
I'm not picking him. It doesn't interest me. I think I'd rather have Davis Mills or Jared Goff.
Fair. Right.
There we go.
There you go. There's
your bombshell. I'd rather have Jared Goff than Matt Ryan. Words I never thought I'd say on a podcast. Yeah, this was a great show. It's so good to be back. I'm so glad. Thanks so much for holding the shit while I've been here. 2 great shows.
Man, it's a great show. I know you was commenting loads with Andy last week. It's good fun. FFCC. in full flow, and I'm on the clock as we speak. So that's the first thing I'm doing when we finish. Sorry to my draft mates for holding you up.
Thank you, everyone, so much for watching. Thank you so much for all the well wishes. Thank you for literally everything, all the questions, all the support, all the comments. Keep them coming. We'll come back next week stronger, better episodes. Thanks to Joe, and always don't forget, keep rushing.
Buy the book.
Oh, and yeah, buy the book. Buy the playbook. It's on sale still. There's still a couple of spots left in the book league. So, yeah, go out there and buy them. If you show your receipts in the next sort of 24, 48 hours, I'll add you. There's a couple of spots left. So,
awesome.
Until next week, keep rushing.
Thanks, Murph.